Sir, we can try. Yes, we can. So it's live on Facebook now.
We are live on Facebook now. Veenu, I am asking you to switch on your camera.
Sir.
Before I allow everybody to come inside.
The weapons and platforms will all be honored. Those
Good evening to all of you. Thank you for such overwhelming response. We got more than 300 registration, and I would like to inform that at Zoom meeting we can only cater 100 participants, and the others can join us on the live Facebook page of Solace Physio. This is Dr. Veenu Kumar. I'm a London shoulder expert and a tutor, and I am a cardiopulmonary therapist with 12 years of experience in ICU. I'm the founder of Solace Physiotherapy Center, and currently I am the head of the department at Ashwani Hospital. Today, we are all here for a webinar called CHARCHAA, brought to you by Ashwani Hospital in conjugation with Solace Physiotherapy Center. The topic for today's CHARCHAA is how to boost the immune system during this COVID-19 outbreak. To enlighten us on this topic, we have with us a renowned physician and a very eminent gastroenterologist. He is the founder and director of Ashwani Hospital, Dr. Ashwani Chopra, sir. Sir, we welcome you. I'd like to introduce Dr. Ashwani Chopra, sir. With over 41 years of experience in the field of gastroenterology, Dr. Ashwani Chopra, sir, is serving us in the field. He did his MD from Delhi in 1978. Then he went to United Kingdoms for his specialization, where he worked as a registrar at Chase Farm and Hammersmith Hospital. After that, he completed his MRCP from London, and he came back to India. For a short tenure, he worked as a lecturer at GB Pant, and soon he started his own private practice and launched Ashwani Hospital in 1984. We all know about the state of art and familiar and personalized care at Ashwani. Every who's and who of Delhi and India, be it from politicians to diplomats to filmmakers to film stars, are such patients. Sir, from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to welcome you and ask you to enlighten us on the topic for the today.
Thank you, Veenu, and let me also welcome you and inform everyone that since Veenu has joined us, the entire face of physiotherapy has changed in Ashwani Hospital. He is truly an expert in physical therapy, and we are happy and honored to have him with us.
Thank you, sir. Sir, though we know that Ashwani is not a dedicated COVID center, so what are the special measures taken at Ashwani in fight against COVID?
Well, we have two entrances. Both entrances are partially blocked. Anyone entering as a patient or even our staff is first obviously checked for temperature and given a mask, a cap, as well as shoe covers. And they are then sanitized with sanitizers. And they then call the hospital inside and speak to the doctor and state why they're there. So if a person has come with fever or cough or any respiratory symptom, then we take him into a dedicated place, which we call the emergency room 2, where a dedicated nurse in protective gear and a dedicated doctor in protective gear examines the patient and decides the further course of action. If the patient needs to be hospitalized, then we take him through a back elevator into the first floor, again, which is dedicated to people who have not yet been tested for COVID. If the patient requires admission, we prefer doing a COVID test, and the COVID test is negative, then we take him either into the ICU, not because he needs ICU, but because that's a sterile area, or to another floor. So even people who have to be operated are dealt like that. We have separate dedicated staff as far as the kitchen is concerned, as far as the ward boys and the sweepers are concerned. And as far as possible, for the moment, we are trying to use disposable cutlery.
Sir, that means that Ashlok has a separate EMR facility with a separate entry, keeping in mind the minimal exposure policy, even for the staff as well as for the other patients.
Yes, there are multiple areas in the hospital where the staff and other people can wash their hands. Everyone is on masks and on shoe covers, and there are sanitizers all over the hospital. And we have segregated people who are yet to be tested and the people who have been tested and cleared. And we have conducted many operations. Currently, we are redoing a few things, so we'll need a few more days to, because as each day goes by, we learn more and more about this disease, and therefore we keep making some changes.
Sir, so that's very thoughtful of Ashlok that they have tried their level best in the fight against COVID. Sir,
That's right.
the second point is there's a lot of confusion and discussion going on about the use of hydroxychloroquine, and commonly called as HCQS. One of my patients was also asking to stock that for their family. And even President Trump has requested India to export it to US. So how about your view on the use of HCQS?
Well, right from the start, hydroxychloroquine has been used against viral diseases, although the original reason was for malaria. And currently, hydroxychloroquine is used for autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. But, you know, the ICMR has clearly recommended that frontline workers, especially people who are in potential to be exposed, should have a dose once a week for at least 7 to 8 weeks. And then depending upon how long the pandemic lasts, one can extend that. Those who are not exposed have been recommended to take once a week for about 3 weeks. Now, there's a lot of controversy about the use of this drug, mainly because there are some side effects. But I personally believe that these side effects are only if you're taking it continuously over a period of time. People have mentioned changes in the retina, certain cardiac changes. But for all practical purposes, my answer is yes, you can take it as a preventive, because even abroad in many other centers, it's not only being used as a preventive, but also as a treatment option. Some reports are good, some reports are bad, but for the moment, I would recommend it for people who are at a risk for exposure to take it as a weekly preventive dose.
So that means that SCQS does have some preventive role in the majorly the frontline workers and as well as someone who get exposed to a positive patient.
Yes, it has certain actions by which what happens is that the virus, when it attaches itself to the receptor in the cell, this drug actually occupies the receptor, so the virus cannot come onto the receptor. The other way this drug works is it dissolves the outer fat layer of the virus, and therefore the virus gets inactivated. So theoretically, it should work.
Thank you for the enlightenment, sir. So now my next thing is like everybody during this COVID, their schedule is on the toss. Their timing has gone hayway. So what are the measures taken to boost the immune system?
Well, it's not really boosting, it's actually supporting and strengthening the immune system. It's just a matter of words. But I would like to look at health and the immune system more as a term which I call well-being. Because well-being is much more wholesome and much more all-encompassing, which defines what is health and defines what is the immune system. So there are, I would say, 5 pillars of well-being. One is the physical well-being, and physical well-being will obviously also include emotional well-being, mental well-being, and spiritual well-being. And broadly, in raw terms, physical well-being would include adequate rest, good sleep, proper diet, supplements, healthy emotions, stress management, and things like that. And in healthy emotions, you know, stress management, I think we're going to discuss a little later. But healthy emotions means that we do not harbor emotions like fear, stress, anger, hostility, guilt, shame, depression. and try to incorporate more healthy emotions, like joy, loving kindness, empathy, compassion, equanimity, because these are the ones that really boost our immune system. I want to use the word boost again. So this is one pillar of health, that is the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. I put under one pillar. The other pillar is the social well-being and community well-being. Social well-being really refers to our connection between our friends and family. And although now we cannot meet them so openly, but we can give them, virtual hugs, and we can, like we're talking, and we're doing a virtual Sangha at the moment. So through technology and through Facebook and through webinars, we can communicate with our loved ones. So keeping that social intimacy is part and parcel of our immune status well-being. Community well-being really refers to attitude of service. We must remember that we are all in this together. This virus has shown us that there are no boundaries, no geographic boundaries, no religious boundaries, no ethnic boundaries, no political boundaries, and that we are in this that tells us that we are all interconnected. We are all related. Everything is related to each other. And as one person very elegantly put, that we are on this ship called Earth, and we can't get off. We cannot disembark. Whether we are on first class or whether we are on business class or whether economy, we're all literally in the same boat. So when we develop this sense of community, when we do things for people, when we do service, and we can do service in various ways, we can donate money to people who are in need, we can contribute to kitchens who are working, we can contribute to NGOs. So when we do that, our sense of well-being goes up and our immune system really gets a boost. There are two or more pillars of well-being which are equally important. And one is called career well-being. Now, in this time, careers are really taking a beating. But if you have to look at every cloud having a silver lining, then we need to see what is it that we can change in future to come? How is it that we can change our careers to suit the current environment and the future environment? Financial well-being is another thing that is taking a huge beating. But what we've come to realize that, we can do with not so much money, and that we can survive very well on our basic needs, and we are not spending money on things that we used to spend. We don't need to spend money we don't have to buy things we don't want to impress people we don't like. So it's all teaching us so many things. So these are the 5 pillars of well-being, which, when they are met, do we get perfect health and do we get a supported immune system?
Wow, sir. I think we can take a separate webinar on the pillars of well-being after doing this.
Oh, absolutely. Each one is a separate meeting.
Sir, Sir, so we talked about the physical well-being. So my question is, how much an ample sleep can help in individual's immunity?
I think before we discuss individual things, it's important to know what is our immune system. Of course, it's very complicated, but broadly speaking, when our body is attacked by a foreign pathogen, be it virus, bacteria, pollutant, or carcinogen, the first line of defense is our fighter cells, the white blood cells, which are natural killer cells. Then we have certain cells called the macrophages, and they then convert into something called T cells and B cells. The T cells are immediate attack, B cells are immunity attack. And then certain chemicals are made, called interleukin, interferon. Now the details are not important, but what's important to know that there is a complex cascade of events in the immune system, which involves multiple enzymes, compounds, coenzymes, and various drugs and supplements and food act through these mechanisms. So sleep has been seriously researched, but sleep is the time when our body, self-regulates, when our body restores to homeostasis. And during sleep, many things happen. We get rid of certain toxins, our growth hormone levels go up, our cortisol level goes down, our T cell function improves, the telomeres, which are a surrogate marker of health and aging, they improve, and so many other changes. There are, disease-fighting antibodies are increased, and there are certain things called cytokines, which are markers of inflammation, and these are helpful cytokines. So there is clear research that during sleep, we are really, really, really replenished, and that is the time when the body self-regulates. And when we go into deep sleep, we go into that state of an egoless state, and that is the state of pure consciousness. So sleep has unbelievable healing benefits. And the amount of sleep we need adequately is about 7 hours or 8 hours. And children may need less or more, but at least 7 hours is good. Too much sleep is bad, too little sleep is bad. There's acute deprivation and chronic deprivation. And there's enough studies showing the benefit effects on our health and our immune system of good rest and sleep.
Sure. So I think that was very simple and very precise presentation of the immunity, that how our immune system work, and even a common people can understand this, that how important it is nowadays. So my next question is, how about the role of supplements in our diet?
Huge, 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 huge. I'm a big supplement person. And
Sure.
now this is something that we must all note down because this has been very well worked out by various health authorities. So top of the line is vitamin D, which really is not a vitamin, it's a hormone because it's manufactured in our bodies. And you know that D does not exist naturally in most foods except in fish and fortified breakfast supplements and things like that. And the maximum D you get is from sunlight, but you have to be on your terrace in a bikini with maximal skin exposure if you want real benefit from the sun. Also to let you know that sunscreens and glass cuts the benefit out of sunlight on your body. So D is an important hormone, not a vitamin, like I said, not just in improving the solidity of our bones, but it's a vital part of complex reactions, like I just explained, as coenzymes, it in certain cascade of our immune response, as well as a molecule on the basis of which various other hormones are made. So the dosage that we recommend is 60,000 units once a week for 8 weeks, 60,000 units once a week for 8 weeks, and then once a month to continue. Now, there are some authorities that believe that when we start this immune treatment, that we should take it daily for a week and then do the weekly business. But I believe that we don't take too much of vitamin D. So clearly 60,000 once a week for 8 weeks, followed by once a month to continue. Now, the nano form of D is better than the other form. So there are these various products available on the market. So that's for D. The second line is vitamin C, mainly known for its antioxidant properties and coenzyme properties. The dosage of vitamin C should be anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams a day. The effervescent variety, which is not easily available, is the best. And a note of caution here, a lot of people are carrying imported vitamin C tablets, which are 1 gram slow release preparations. They're not as good because C is a water-soluble vitamin, and therefore we lose the bioavailability of C. So C should be taken 2 to 3 times a day. So 1,000 milligrams to 1,500 milligrams is C available in the market as Selin, Chew C, Lim C, and any other preparation like that. So that is a must. But a bit of caution, some people who are prone to kidney stones should be careful with vitamin C or drink lots of water, which in any case is a good thing to do. The third is zinc, which is again an important part of our components of the immune system available in the market. And it should be more than 50 milligrams. So there are 3 preparations. I want you to note this down. One is called Zincolac, one is called Zinfonia, and one is called Bicozinc. There are other zinc preparations, but they have less vitamin zinc in them. So it should be more than 50 milligrams. So please check your formulation that it should be more than 50. Then we come to all the B vitamins, which are playing multiple roles everywhere. But specifically, we are dealing with something called B6, which is available in the market as Benadon, B-E-N-A-D-O-N, and B12. Then there are other antioxidant vitamins like magnesium and irion, that is vitamin E. There is a huge reason to alkalinize our bodies, because when we have an alkaline pH in our body, our healing system and our immune system gets fortified. The lymphatic flow increases, the healing chemicals increase. So we can alkalinize it by having an alkaline diet, and you can all go on the net and see what an alkaline diet is. But chemically, you can alkalinize it by having a bit of baking soda in water, or certain alkalinizing medicines are available. There is one sachet by the name of citrus soda or Alkastol. You can even freeze some lemons in the freezer, and when they become rock hard, you grate it to a powder and sprinkle it over your food. So alkalinizing the food is important. The other important factor is to get the benefit of our intestinal microbiome, the bacteria, the helpful bacteria in our intestine. So taking probiotics, and I recommend a probiotic called Econome, which contains a yeast called Saccharomyces, as well as something called VSL3. How much is difficult. It's not that you put these, people call it the flora, but you don't just plant it there. You need to take probiotics for a long period of time. And there are some prebiotic foods also which promote the growth of probiotics. So that's one more supplement. I would also include, to be honest, aspirin. Now, this is a controversial point in the supplements that you must take, because if there is no contraindication, if your doctor says that you can take aspirin, and it is being used widely for a variety of conditions, because the ultimate process in mortality and when patients get serious is thrombosis and clotting of blood vessels. So keeping your blood thin is good. A lot of research is being done on CBD oil, that is cannabinoid oil derived from cannabis, but this has no hallucinogenic properties. And this clearly has a benefit on our immune system. Silver biotics, there are ionic silver solutions that are being used, and people are also fiddling around with changing your bioelectric fields and all those things to improve the immune system, and they all have a value. Even homeopathy is important here. As you all know, you may have heard, arsenicum album and camphora are two things that are doing the rounds, and here you would have to ask your homeopaths, because homeopathy works in prevention. It does not act at the physical level, but it acts at what we call the vital level, which is a level outside the domain of the physical body, and it is where the blueprints of our organs are made. So this is a word on supplements.
Sir, so these are the supplements. Now, what are the food category by which we can fulfill these things?
Okay, so all the things that I mentioned, that the supplements and the medicines work at the molecular level of the immune system, the white cells, the T cells, the interleukins and interferons. But food acts either by raising our pH and making it more alkaline, or providing an antioxidant value. You may have heard on your nets and your WhatsApp a figure, a thing called AROK, which is the absorptive capacity of these foods. ORAC value, that's the oxygen radical absorption capacity. And certain foods have a high ORAC value and certain foods have a low ORAC value. So the foods that I'm going to recommend are those which have the capacity to neutralize free oxygen radicals, because these free oxygen radicals are damaging to us, they cause inflammation, and they hurt the immune system. So if you look at vegetables, anything that is dark green, like spinach, broccoli, anything that is orange and red, like tomatoes and carrots, beetroots, all the peppers, the various colors in the pepper, red pepper, yellow pepper, green peppers, even celery, avocado, beetroot, mushrooms. So it's not that we have all of them, but we could easily include in a whole day all these items, which would increase the healing value. Then there are fruits, and again, fruits act by raising the pH and making our body fluids more alkaline. All citrus fruits, straight away. All citrus fruits are good. Papaya is good. Mango is good. Pineapple is good. Cherries are good. All berries are good. Now, there's an issue on fructose here, because modern medicine is now telling us that fructose may have an inflammatory action inside the body. So we try and use low fructose fruits like papaya and guava and kiwi and muskmelon and green apple. These are low fructose fruits, but that's another topic, what fructose is doing. But for the time being, the fruits I have mentioned are important in helping in alkalinizing. Then there is something which VEENU very nicely calls them dadima ki nuske, and these dadima nuskas have been carrying on, especially in India, for so long. 4 of them have been scientifically very well worked out. The first and top of the line is the wonder herb called turmeric, haldi, and we all have haldi in our diets, in the Indian diets. But we could take additional 1 tablespoon of haldi, either mixed with milk, and we combine it with pepper. The active ingredient called curcumin is better absorbed. The second is garlic, and it has a compound called allicin, which has natural antiviral and antibacterial action, and it's best to take raw chopped garlic. You may smell like a Korean, but it's good for your health. Tulsi has proven antiviral actions. Ginger has proven antiviral actions. But remember that Tulsi, ginger should not be boiled in the water. It should be infused. That means you don't add them into, don't boil them in the water, but you add them into already boiled water. Then dalchini, cinnamon, cumin, jeera, all these things are good, which should easily be put into your diet. Then seeds, especially pumpkin seeds, coriander seeds, kalonji seeds. Now that's a real one. Kalonji seeds mixed with a little bit of honey and hot water are fantastic, because they have a compound which resembles HCQS. And it's been used for a variety of conditions. Certain beverages are good, coffee in moderation, all teas, but especially green tea and chamomile tea. Cocoa is very good. certain Ayurvedic herbs and other herbs like rosemary, thyme, parsley, easily incorporated on a daily basis. And things like ashwagandha, shatavari, mulatti, easily, can long, all these things can be, incorporated. So it's not that I mentioned so many things. I mean, just keep remembering and divide them into fruits, vegetables, herbs, Ayurvedic compounds, and you can easily decide that how. People have talked about what is called the rainbow diet, which means that you include all colors of the rainbow in your vegetables here,
Sir,
So that's about food.
basically, you have talked about the foods, the herbs,
Yeah.
the food, the herbs. What about the non-veg diet, sir? If somebody is on a non-veg diet and he is fond
Right.
of dairy products, so how to boost their immunity?
Well, again, the new science is telling us that there is something what we call the inflammatory diet. I must include oils. It has now been shown that all vegetable oils are inflammatory in origin, and the oils that we must use should either be coconut oil, sesame oil, mustard oil, rice bran oil, and of course, olive oil. So that's that. Gluten, sugar, and milk. These are supposed to be inflammatory in origin, and they ultimately will destroy our immune system. And so we should try and slowly, slowly wean ourselves away from sugar completely, away from gluten, because there are a lot of non-gluten attas available these days, and milk. Now, this is controversial, but milk clearly has, now there are two types of milk, normal milk and A2 milk. A2 milk is okay. It's not inflammatory in origin, or we could use almond milk or coconut milk. But these three things we could stay away from. This issue about whether being a vegetarian or not, in reports coming in that only a non-veg and that vegetarians don't get corona, I think is wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's the way that the meat is prepared. It's the way the animals are killed, the way the animals are conglomerated together. The infection comes from the live animals, not the dead animals. And once you have the meat and you cook it properly, there's no question of meat transmitting the virus. That's another matter, that vegetarianism is generally okay. But there are clear benefits of eggs, because eggs contain nearly everything our body needs. The only thing eggs don't have is B12 and iron, but every possible vitamin, mineral, trace element, micronutrient is present in eggs. So I would recommend them clearly. Don't worry about the cholesterol, that's all nonsense. Bone broth made from chicken is amazingly healthy for our immune system, amazingly healthy. And all fatty fish are also great because they have a lot of omega-3 fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, trout, sardines. So I am not saying no, but I'm saying to have it in moderation. But they do not, this is not true that that causes corona.
Sir, that was very nice, sir, because there's a lot of confusion going on the social media that I'm a non-vegetarian, I'm a vegetarian, so I will get this, I will get that. And I think with this illustration of yours, they will get the benefit out of it, sir.
No, I've had lots to speak. Veenu, may I ask you some questions also, please?
Sir, please, sir. Please.
Yeah. See, you're a physical therapist. So in your life, you are coming across the people who exercise, who don't exercise, who breathe properly and who don't breathe properly. Can you throw some light on what is the right way to exercise and the right way to breathe?
So basically, we all aware about the role of exercises. So during this COVID, I would like to say what not to do before what to do. So what not to do is a high intensity workout, because this is a big no. So there are many studies which state that an elite level of athlete who is in habit of a high intensity training during the day are more susceptible for infections, for common cold. So because of the fact that high intensity exercise lead to an anti-inflammatory effect. And during this COVID, we don't need anti-inflammatory effect. We basically need is a pro-inflammatory response, which can enhance our antioxidants in the body, which fight against the free radicals and eventually help us in fight the COVID. So the answer to this is do moderate intensity exercise, and that too at a very frequent level. So what is moderate intensity exercise? So as per American Council of Physical Therapy, they say that anything from 40 to 60% of your maximal heart rate is regarded as a moderate intensity exercise. There are many equations, sir, which can calculate your maximal heart rate. But the simple one for the common people, I can say you can just minus your age from 220. That gives your maximal heart rate, and 60% to that makes your moderate intensity exercise. So the common examples at home, what we can do is squatting. We can do static cycle, but not for the longer time period. We can do step up and step down. Even mopping the floor is regarded as a moderate exercise, and making your garden in your terrace or a balcony also add to that. And so about your second question related to the breathing exercise.
Yeah.
Now, we are all aware about breathing exercise role, thanks to our yoga gurus and social media, that we are aware about that breathing can control our stress, breathing can control our anxiety, it promotes healing. But today, I would like to tell you about the 3 specific techniques of breathing which can help in boosting the immunity. It has a direct prevailing effect on immunity. Now, the 3 are, number 1 is diaphragmatic breathing. Number 2 is breathing out with a hissing sound. And number 3 is Buteyko technique. Now, what is diaphragmatic breathing? Now, diaphragmatic breathing is you just have to place the hand on the diaphragm, which is in between the umbilicus and your breastbone. And keep looking at the hand. When you take a deep breath in, the hand should go out. And when you blow out from your mouth, it should go in. Now, with this, you are stimulating your vagal system. It is affecting your parasympathetic drive, which eventually leads to relaxation and helps in immunity. Now, the second one, now thanks to our Hindu mythology and yogic gurus, that we have n number of pranayama techniques. So here we can add Bhasrika pranayama technique. Now, what's that? In this, you have to take a deep breath from the nose and then blow as if with a hissing sound. So it is like this. The principle remains the same. It is longer the breath, slower the breath out you do, it again boosts the system. And the last one is a specialized school of thought. This is called Buteyko breathing technique. Now, as a cardiovascular therapist, we are all aware about this technique. There are 6 to 7 techniques. So, but in boosting the immunity, I would like to take one component that is called control pause. So in this, you have to do a small breath from nose in, then a small breath out from nose, and then hold the breath. And you can time this hold the breath. Now, this is very crucial. Holding the breath till the time you desire for the next breath. When we time it, there are statistics that if it is less than 25 seconds, the lungs are not in optimal state of condition. If it is from 25 to 35 seconds, then there is still a scope of improvement. But if it is more than 40 seconds, that means the lungs are in an optimal state. So this technique can be used as a test for COVID patient to check whether their lungs are affected or not. Plus, as a therapist, we can train them from going from 5-second hold to 10-second hold and eventually leading to 40-second hold.
Can you spell this word so that everyone can look it up if they have to? What is the?
It's called Buteyko technique. Buteyko. Buteyko technique.
Okay. So information, I just held my breath for 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. So that means you are not affected, sir. We are
absolutely.
We are having with us, sir. Sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Like we have covered the supplements, we have covered the breathing, we have covered the exercise, what food we should take. But in the end, just I like to ask that there's a saying that it is always the mind over the body and medicine. So can you throw any light on that control? Because we know that you are an expert of alternate discipline of health and healing. So can we throw any light on this? If we control our mind, can we control?
Actually, there are, 2 pandemics going on. One is the Corona pandemic and one is the pandemic of fear.
Sir.
And Corona, of course, is very contagious, but more contagious than the Corona is our emotions and our feelings. Yeah, because Corona at least needs some proximity. Emotions and feelings can spread through no space and time. So therefore they have no location and no space time. So emotions are more contagious than the virus. And the pandemic that is going on is the pandemic of fear. So when we are in fear, nature has given us a mechanism which is called the fight or flight response. That means when faced with fear, and this is a response given to primitive man when he was fighting against dangerous animals, that either he stands and fight or he runs. So what gives us this response is the sympathetic nervous system. We have a voluntary nervous system and we have an involuntary nervous system, what is called the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
So sympathetic nervous system is the one which quickens our heart rate, quickens our pulse rate, dries our mouth, increases sweating, causes all the blood to flow into the limbs, because that's the time we need to run. All nutrition is spent on running away from danger. Now, we are no longer in that primitive state. We no longer have this tiger to fight against. But when we are stressed and we go into panic phase, the sympathetic overdrive takes place, and we go into this high pulse rate, high BP, our cortisol level increases, our adrenaline level increases, our noradrenaline level increases. And cortisol, as you know, is something which suppresses our immune system. There's a release of inflammatory cytokines, and cortisol is antagonistic to many hormones. So this is the sympathetic nervous system that we need to control. And we need to control it by activating the opposite nervous system, which you had mentioned, the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the one which is the opposite of flight and fright, which is the rest and digest response, which is the self-regulatory response, which is the homeostatic response. And since our breath and our thoughts mirror each other, when you're angry and you're upset, your breathing increases. So the fastest way to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system is to slow down your breath. As simple as that. So if you close your eyes and witness the process of breathing, you can even say breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and you slow down your breath to about even 6 a minute. And there are people with practice who can do it to even 3 a minute. And you can even give it a count, like you breathe in for 6, hold for 2, breathe out for 4, and then you can do variations in that. There are various alternate nostril breathing. You mentioned Bhastrika. There are at least, as you said, 100 methods of pranayama. So this is one way of stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is mediated through a nerve called the vagus nerve. Now there's a theory which is called the polyvagal theory. That means there are many ways by which you can stimulate the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is our healing nerve, which goes from the brain into the body. It has a bidirectional communication. The body communicates with the brain with the body, and so on. It supplies our lungs, our hearts, our intestines, our liver, our spleen. Every system which is beyond our control, digestion, excretion, elimination, is done by the vagus nerve. Things that we don't know how our body is doing. The asanas, the asan word asan means seat of awareness. So there are so many asanas which stimulate different parts of the vagus nerve. We have forward bending, lateral bending, sitting, standing. If we combine this with drishti, that is tratak, if we combine that with kriyas, like kunjal and neti and all those things, and we combine them with buns, these are all yogic techniques, then we are really, really in business, because that's the time when our vagus is really active and our immune system is well supported. I must mention here that chanting of mantra meditation is very important, and that is one phase before we go into the state of dhyan, because mantra is dharan and dhyan is meditation. Meditation perhaps would be the best way to stimulate our immune system. And even if we contemplate on certain ideas, who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? What am I grateful for? So that brings me to the most important point, is that the best way to stimulate my immune system is to do a prayer in gratitude, is to make a gratitude list and see that what am I grateful for. So that really, really is one of the best things that you can do. Now, people often ask me, how do you meditate? Everyone has a different way, but a very simple method, if you have the time, is to sit down in the open, in your terrace, in your garden or whatever, shut your eyes, become aware of your surroundings, listen for some time to the sounds non-judgmentally. After that, you visualize different parts of your body, starting from your feet upwards. Then you focus your attention on your breath. And that is where you can get lost in witnessing the process of breathing.
Also,
this is the parasympathetic way. Otherwise, there are many people who have worked on what we call the so-called spiritual methods of improving our health and the other methods of improving our well-being and immune system. And someone has outlined certain steps. So let's say you are troubled, you've got turbulent emotions, and how do you want to deal with it? Step one would be to take responsibility for your emotions. Don't blame other people, don't blame China, don't blame this. You take responsibility for your own emotions. Responsibility, the ability to respond. Now, am I responding in an angry, hostile way, or am I responding in a centered, spiritual way? So we take responsibility. Many authorities believe that we are all going through a collective grief. Now, grief is when we lose something. What have we lost? We have lost the way of life that we were used to living. We've taken our life for granted. So there is grief. And interestingly, there are 5 stages of grief. And the reason I mention this is that if you become aware of these 5 stages, like the first stage is denial. No, this can't be happening to me. This is usually followed by anger or feeling of being victimized. Okay, why me? Why is this happening to us? The third stage is bargaining. That, oh God, I'll stop smoking, I'll stop drinking, but please don't let this happen to me. Then we move into the state of depression. But hang on, the next stage is acceptance. So once we're reaching this stage, acceptance is just one stage away. So if you can recognize that you're passing through the phases of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, you're just one step away from acceptance. And when you reach that stage of acceptance is when the magic happens.
Probably now we know that the reason that why you smile the whole day, even working from 8 to 8, and we can see the smile on your face. So this is just
no, there is more actually if you have the time. See, the first one who's taking responsibility for your emotions.
Sir.
The second one is to feel the emotion in the body. Feel it. Become aware of the experience of that emotion in your body. Because don't suppress the feeling. If you suppress it, it'll go away. So that's step 2. Step 3 is give it a label. Give it a label. What does this emotion or what is this feeling? How would you label it? One word. The next step is what is the story behind it? Is there a story behind this emotion? Can you write it down? Can you express it to yourself? Can you visualize it in some other way? Can it be expressed in some other way? And after you've done that, you share it with somebody, your loved ones or whoever, significant others. And then you release it. Now, the release has to be done through a ritual. Rituals are important because they add reverence to our lives, and rituals give us that connection, that oneness with the unity of life. And so that ritual could be anything. It could be a prayer, it could be laughing, it could be dancing, it could be journaling your feelings. You can make a ritual out of anything. Watching a funny movie, laughing is a great medicine for boosting our immune system. We have innumerable examples of how people have laughed their way to health. And in yoga, we have a thing which is love.
Right, sir.
Mindfulness is another method of becoming aware of the raw experience of the exposure. So you can be mindful in your daily practice, in your daily life. You can shift to awareness. One is the experience and one is the awareness in which the experience is taking place. So when you get attached to the experience, you feel anger and you feel fear. But awareness per se is undisturbed, is devoid of the experience. So you can say who is the one who is having the experience. So you can shift awareness. Now that's a very subtle but very important way. It's a very experiential thing. So it's only when you do it do you actually feel the benefit of shifting awareness. Holding divine thoughts of empathy. Empathy means thinking exactly like the person may be thinking. Compassion, that means the ability to help somebody. And from it is born love. Love without action is no love. And action without love is also useless. So harboring emotions like joy, loving kindness, empathy, compassion, equanimity, and taking away all the negative emotions like anger, hostility, guilt, shame, depression, it will go a long way in strengthening our immune system.
Right, sir. So now we have quite a bit of questions coming us for you. So I'd like to open it for the questions. Like one question is outside food is completely avoided during this time?
Preferably, mainly because of the fact that it's transported in a particular way, and there's a person who's transporting it. how it can be transmitted through plastic, through cardboard, and the person who could be an asymptomatic carrier. And how is that food being prepared? So you have no idea. So ideally speaking, the answer is absolutely avoid outside food.
And so till when we should avoid it?
We know very little about when and how it's going to happen, and we cannot live this cloistered and sheltered life. So we'll have to devise methods of how to make sure that all these areas of contamination can be avoided. And if that is so, and we all become aware of living a life like that, then we have to get back to life sometime.
So the next question is he do exercise and then breathing, or breathing and then exercise? What is the good idea?
If you do centered breathing, you will find that you will do it much better after you've exercised. And if you want to do a casual breathing exercise, of course, you can do it anytime. But centered breathing, where you are really focusing on the breath and stimulating your inner side, should always be done after your asana and after you've done your exercise. Because exercise does many things. You see, exercises forces us to breathe faster. We flush out certain bacteria. We raise our temperature, and those raising of temperature is not good for certain bacteria. Certain health promoting antibodies come up, and the sense of well-being that exercise gives us decreases cortisol levels. So all that happens, and then we breathe much better.
Sir, I think we have answered this question, but there's a question, direct question to you. You say that should I take SCQ?
Should I take?
SCQS.
No, I answered that question.
Yeah, I know that you answered it, but there's a direct question for you coding your name.
Well, I am having it because I am at so-called risk, because I'm looking at patients and there can be asymptomatic carriers. Now, this is the biggest problem in this condition, that you can have asymptomatic carriers. So because of that, our issues about social distancing and masks and gloves and maintaining those things remain important, because the incubation period can vary from anywhere between 5 to 21 days. People say 14 days, but we have seen people who have tested negative, at least on record. There are, not that I've seen many, but on record people have tested negative initially, and 5 days later they test positive. So how to deal with asymptomatic patients is a huge challenge, huge challenge. At the same time, we shouldn't get so spooked out, that everyone is carrying the virus. So, it's going to be impossible to live like that. So we have to come into that state of acceptance that this is a new way of life. We have to maintain social distancing. We have to maintain wearing masks, and that's somehow we have to do that. And slowly, as time goes by, herd immunity will go up, and things will improve. And somewhere down the line, this epidemic has to go.
Rightly said, sir. So there's another question, that there's a gentleman of 68 years of age, and he regularly plays the tennis at the club area. Now, due to lockdown, he's not able to go out. And any suggestion to boost his immunity and how he can get back to his own regime?
Well, all the things that we have mentioned, I mean, if you have a terrace, then you can walk around the terrace for at least 30 minutes or so. And if you can manage to do, say, 10,000 steps, you can do floor exercise, as Dr. VEENU has suggested. You can do stretching, you can do asanas. I myself, I walk about 10 to 12,000 steps on my terrace. And in the evening, I do a series of stretches and floor exercises. So I haven't put on any weight in this session. And, I'm approximately the same as this gentleman, and I'm doing what I have to do.
So there's another question, a very interesting one. Like, hi, doctor. For kids, what are the ideal supplements regularly given to boost the immunity? Especially keeping in mind.
Well, you can, the same supplements are important in children. Of course, the dosages will vary. So you can give, depending upon the weight. Actually, we don't talk about kids, we talk about weight. Most dosages are calculated at 70 kilograms. So if I'm saying that 60,000 is needed for a 70 kilogram person, for a 40 kilogram person, you reduce it accordingly. So rather than the age, you go by the weight.
Okay.
So the pediatricians can help you decide that, but the same supplements that you mentioned for adults are needed in children.
So that's a nice answer, sir. So there's another question, that what precaution that one should ensure after entering the house after going to the grocery store? I think like that.
Well, I would say that when you go to the grocery store, not only should you have a mask, but if you have a face shield, which are now available all over, it would be helpful. And if you can get some shoe covers when you go out. So when I come in, when I leave hospital and I come in, I take off my shoe covers in the hospital in a dedicated area, so that my shoes when I'm in the car are clean. And I continue to wear a mask. When I come back, I take out my clothes literally on the driveway, and I put them into a bag, and that is washed separately.
That's
I
nice.
come in and I wash my hands and I have a shower immediately and I change them. So, these things have become part and parcel. They're difficult, but within time, we'll get used to this way of living.
Right.
And in any case, these were healthy habits, come to think of it. Not touching your face, not touching your nose, not touching your eyes, doing things like that were healthy habits in any case.
Sir, I think like we have touched the good story of this boosting the immunity, because there are a lot of questions I'm bombarding with. So I'm putting on to you, sir. Uh, is it advisable to have an intermittent fasting during this time?
If you are used to intermittent fasting, like I am still continuing to do that. If you're used to doing it, do not disturb it, because intermittent fasting is clearly shown to improve our immune status. It improves our growth hormone levels. It improves our sensitivity to insulin. And so there's no need to interrupt it. But those who have not started it, it's better not to, because they may feel other symptoms. But there's no real contraindication, to be honest. But I'm still carrying on, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I haven't disturbed that.
Sir, so can homeopathy and allopathy can be combined to boost the immunity?
Absolutely, it can be from our point of view. And most homeopaths also are now clearly allowing them to be taken together, with a little caveat that most homeopathy medicine should be taken on an empty stomach, and that one should not have coffee half an hour prior or before that, because the absorption can get affected. But certainly we can take it together.
Sir, any take on drivers and the maids? Because all of us are on our own now. We are working at house. I think the husbands are now getting the taste of how to maintain the houses. So any take on drivers and the maids?
Yeah, theoretically, that is a problem. There's no doubt about that. We don't know if we know where they're living. Are they coming from containment areas? Are they coming from hotspots? Ideally speaking, and everyone is not so fortunate, you should have, residential situations for your maids and drivers, so that they're not going out of the house. Now, how long can this continue? This is a very tough question to answer. But the answer is that yes, we have to be careful for whoever is coming from outside, because we don't know who he has met and what is his degree of hygiene and everything like that.
So what about Ayurveda? Like any Ayurvedic medicine, you say that we can help in boosting the immunity?
Well, Ayurveda is perhaps a complete medical system. The problem with Ayurveda is that it has to be done completely as Ayurveda should be done. And when Ayurveda proliferated, we were living in different times. Our emotions were different, the environment was different, and the quality of food was different. So Ayurveda has to work by an expert, done in a proper way. We can't just say, okay, let me have some Ayurvedic medicine, because we don't know how they're made. We can do Ayurvedic principles, and yoga is part of the Ayurvedic principle. You can follow Ayurvedic principles in terms of how to eat, when to eat, food combinations and things like that. And take certain basic Ayurvedic things like, as I mentioned, Ashwagandha, Shatavari, Mulati, all those things which are in raw form of Ayurveda certainly can be given. But full-blown Ayurvedic treatment requires a lot of supervision and changes in your diets and way of living, which is very difficult to do.
So there's a question from my family itself, like the person is having diabetes, a cardiac condition, underwent a stent. So any extra precaution they should take in respect to the immunity?
Well, certainly we do know that particular age group and people with comorbid conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and immune system disorders are more prone but there are hundreds of examples of people having come out unscathed. And these are people who have done their immune system through the power of the mind. And so don't be scared, and stay away from certain things, like don't smoke, do your exercises, don't drink excessively, sleep well, rest well. If you do that, then your immune system is good in any case. But there are certain things you shouldn't do, like don't have processed foods, don't smoke, and so on. So if you do the usual precaution that you need to take, then you're okay and protected.
So some question from the taste buds, sir. Actually, we know that during lockdown, the alcohol was not there available. So the question has come up: does alcohol lowers the immunity?
It depends. It depends on how much you've been drinking in the past and so on. If your liver is compromised, then the liver is a very important organ for immunity, and it screens lots of toxins that are there. So alcohol in moderation would mean 2 small drinks is okay. But anything more than that, I mean, for a short while, it's all right. But excessive alcohol is bad in any case. And if you have bad livers, then certainly you should use this opportunity to say, okay, hey, is life possible without it? I've given up in this period.
I think there's one more question. That one question for me, that can I increase my lung capacity? And I think the answer is yes. With training, with practice, we can increase it, sir.
Now, the exercises that Dr. VEENU has explained, diaphragmatic breathing, deep breathing, and all the forms of pranayama, are the ways that you can increase it. Absolutely, you can increase your lung capacity.
Sir, another question, like a person with liver cirrhosis, can he take SCQS?
Yes, in a preventive dose, he can.
Okay. That was a nice
like preventive dose means like once a week.
Okay, but that's a nice crisp answer, sir. I think, sir, like the questions will come and bombard us, and I'll suggest them to write it us on an email, and we'll try to follow it up afterwards, right?
Okay.
Please, sir. So, sir, in the end, like we have come to the end of the webinar called Charcha Mein. I would like to thank from my bottom of my heart to Dr. Ashwin Chopra, sir, to share his time, to expertise, and in such a common language that even a common people can understand, that even small changes in their lifestyle, in their diet, can boost their immunity and eventually will help them to fight against COVID. And
I just saw a question from Paramarya, who asked that can a person with tachycardia take HCQS? You see, HCQS is known to produce prolongation of the QT interval, which is an ECG change. If you are on any medication that can affect the QT interval, and that you can ask your cardiologist, then it would be a little risky. But even then, if you're taking it once a week, I don't really think so. But if you're on certain medications, like anti-arrhythmic medicines like Cordarone or Quinidine, which I know you're not, since I know the medicine you're having, then we could consider it. And I'll talk to you in the evening and tell you about this.
So nice, sir. Okay, so at the end, I would like to thank Raju Prasar, sir, President SIP, Dr. Nitesh Bansal, sir. He is my mentor and honorary secretary of SIP, and other committee members for approving this webinar in the public awareness. In the end, I would just like to say that let's all live a healthy but a disease-free life. Thank you all. Thank you for joining. And thank you, sir, for your precious time.
Thank you so much, VEENU, and thank you for all your input and inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.